Most of you know that my wife and I moved here with our son James just 5 weeks before the pandemic began in 2020. The parish was wonderful and so incredibly supportive. But I remember that first Christmas we gathered in December of 2020, and it was both a joyous service but also a sad service. We were unable to sing, and it gave new meaning to the term Silent Night. The service ended and we walked outside, opened those double doors at the front of the church, and I saw something glorious. Snow was falling lightly in the front bowl, and it was stunning. As the snow fell that evening on Christmas, I'm reminded that it was, to me, a sign of hope, of God's presence with us amidst the strangeness. And it reminded me as well of the Israelites who wandered in the wilderness, and God gave them manna coming down like snow, like bread, to sustain them, to encourage them for the walk ahead. They were in a moment in their corporate life where they wondered how to live in the world, in the chaos, and the strangeness. But God's abundance showed up. And in fact, their only proper response was the same response I had just said at the end of that liturgy on Christmas Eve. Thanks be to God. To the degree that we give in the Christian life, to that same degree, we reflect the extent to which we give thanks for all that God has provided for us, to the one who has given everything for us, his own life. You all will know that every fall we do our stewardship campaign, which is called here at St. Francis in the Fields, the Every Member Canvas. And this helps us to sustain our budget for the coming year and all that we seek to do as the church. This year, as I mentioned, our theme is Thanks Be to God, where we reflect on the many good things that God has done here in the past, and we look forward to all that is to come. But one of the things I love most about this church is that we are a people who recognize that we are unfinished people resting in the finished work of Christ. And so as we give thanks to God, we are actually bearing witness to God's faithfulness. Indeed, even our gifts, our pledges, our participation in stewardship is a down payment on our part in response to the life God has given to us. So I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to ask you to pledge this year. Our launch Sunday for stewardship season is October 2nd, and then the campaign will run through Sunday, November 13th. And you might even consider an increase in your pledge. We need to increase our budget by 10% for next year in order to continue the good gospel work which God is growing up in our midst. So let me simply end by saying, I hope that you will get your pledge in by November 13th, and that you will be able to say with us in partnership, thanks be to God in both word and deed. That we're able to say thanks be to God with our time, with our talent, and also, yes, with our treasure. Your pledge helps us fulfill our purpose, which is to make and grow disciples of Jesus Christ by drawing all generations into worship, formation, and mission. And as you give your pledge, just remember that you join the company of those who've gone before us, who were generous and faithful, who went out into the fields in obedience to their Lord Christ. That is, after all, why we are called St. Francis in the Fields.